Have you ever really stopped to think about the words we use every day? Turns out they're not just these solid, single things. They're built, assembled, and each and every one comes from a kind of secret factory inside our minds, following a really precise blueprint. So let's pull back the curtain and see this assembly line in action. Okay, so just look at this. On one side, you've got the word cat. Simple, one piece. But then you get a monster like non-renewability. And here's the crazy part. We know exactly what it means, instantly. But it's made of 5 distinct parts. So how does our brain just handle that complexity so effortlessly? How does it know how to snap all those pieces together?
That's the big question we're diving into. And to find the answer, we've got to go on a little tour of that factory. We need to get down on the factory floor, see the raw materials, and check out the blueprints that guide the whole operation.
All right, first things first. If you want to understand how anything is built, you have to start with what it's made of. So let's begin with the absolute fundamental components of our language.
So here's the thing. The most basic building block of meaning, it isn't the word itself. It's actually something smaller. It's called a morpheme. You can think of it as the atom of meaning. So the word cat is one single morpheme. But that little S that you add to make cats, that's a whole other morpheme. Each one carries its own tiny, specific packet of information.
But, of course, not all these little building blocks are the same. Some are what we call free morphemes. These are the core pieces, the ones that can stand all on their own as words, like cat, or new, or run. And then you have bound morphemes. These are more like the connector pieces, the nuts and bolts, like un or s. They have meaning for sure, but they have to be attached to something else to work.
Okay, so we have our building blocks, our free and bound morphemes. Now it's time to head over to the next part of the factory and see how these pieces actually get put together on the assembly line. And there are 2 main processes we're using all the time.
This first process is called affixation. It's basically like taking one of those core building blocks and customizing it by adding those little connector pieces, the affixes, to either the beginning or the end.
Now this customization comes in a couple of different flavors. The first is what we call derivational. This is like a major upgrade. You start with a word like happy, which is an adjective, right? It describes something. Then you add the affix ness, and boom, you get happiness, which is now a noun, a thing. That one tiny piece completely changes the word's job in a sentence, and that's a huge deal.
The other type is called inflectional, and this is a little more subtle. It's less of an upgrade and more like just tweaking a setting. So you start with cat, which is singular, you add the inflectional affix s, and you get cats, which is plural. See, you haven't changed the word's core job. It's still a noun about a furry animal. You just added a little piece of grammatical information.
And just to show you how wild this assembly process can get, some languages take it to a whole other level. In the Inuktitut language, for example, you can have a single word like this, Iglujwaliolaugtuk. That's not just a word, that's an entire sentence. It means they made a big house. This just brilliantly shows how you can string morpheme after morpheme together into one incredibly dense, complex package of meaning.
All right, let's look at the second major process on our assembly line, compounding. Now, instead of adding those small connector pieces, compounding is all about fusing 2 big core building blocks directly together.
And we do this all the time in English. You just take 2 free morphemes, 2 words that could be on their own, and you just stick them together to create a brand new idea. Dog plus house becomes doghouse. Basket and ball gives you basketball. It's simple, it's elegant, and it's a super powerful way to make new words. So, we've seen the pieces, and we've seen the processes, but this is where it gets really fascinating, because this factory has very strict rules. The order in which you assembled the pieces, well, it can change everything.
Let's look at this word right here, untieable. You can see the 3 morphemes pretty clearly, right? You've got the prefix un, the root tie, and the suffix able. Seems pretty straightforward, but it's not.
Believe it or not, this one word is ambiguous. It has 2 completely opposite meanings. So before I show you, just take a second, see if you can figure them out. How can untieable mean 2 different things?
Okay, ready for the reveal? It all comes down to the assembly order. So if you first combine un with tie to make the verb untie, and then add able, the word means able to be untied. But if you do it the other way, if you first combine tie with able to make the adjective tieable, and then add un, the word means not able to be tied. The exact same pieces, just in a different order, create opposite meanings. That's the precision of the factory at work.
So what does all this mean? Let's kind of zoom out for a second and think about the master architect behind this entire operation.
And here it is, the most amazing part. This entire complex factory, with all its building blocks, its different assembly lines, its super strict rules of order, it's all happening inside your brain. Right now, automatically. You are effortlessly building and understanding these structurally complex words without even thinking about it. You're a master architect of language.
So, what did we learn on our factory tour today? Well, we saw that words have a hidden internal structure, and they're built from these fundamental blocks called morphemes. We discovered that the order you assemble them in can completely change the meaning, and maybe most importantly, we realized that the expert architect behind this whole operation is you. Your brain is doing it all the time. And here's the thing. Once you start seeing the morphemes and the structure inside of words, you can't really unsee it. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden rules and secret factories are humming away just beneath the surface of the language that we use every single day?